From VOA Learning English, this is the Technology Report in Special English. Delegates from around the world recently agreed on a new treaty on telecommunications and the Internet. The agreement came at the World Conference on International Telecommunications in Dubai. But the United States and more than 50 other countries have refused to sign the treaty. They are calling it a threat to Internet freedom. This was the first time that the international telecommunication regulations have been amended in more than 20 years. Back then, the Internet as we know it did not exist. Delegates at the conference in Dubai were divided over how the Internet should be governed. Countries like Russia, Saudi Arabia, China, and Iran are concerned that the Internet's naming system is governed by a non-profit group which operates from the United States. That organization is called ICANN, the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers. The discussions at the conference took place during 2 weeks of tense and sometimes heated debate among the delegates. Officials reported receiving more than 1,200 proposals from members of the International Telecommunication Union. The group's Secretary General, Hamadoun Touré, called the signing of the treaty a momentous occasion. He also expressed regret that some governments chose not to sign the agreement. Hamadoun Touré said he hoped the ITU would continue to work with those countries. Some observers say division over the treaty remains so strong that it is unlikely to go into effect in 2015 as planned. They say changes may be necessary to get wider agreement among delegates. For VOA Learning English, I'm Alex Villarreal. I'm Alex Villarreal with the VOA Special English Technology Report. Today, we tell about some of the top technology developments of the last 10 years. The technological revolution is changing the way we work and play. Mobile phones became smartphones with abilities like computers. Many people started reading books on electronic readers. Televisions became high definition, and the screens became flat. Digital music players got smaller in size, but large enough for people to download their entire music collections. Worldwide broadband subscriptions passed 500 million, and at least 2 billion people were expected to be online by the end of 2010. Stephen Baker is the Vice President of Industry Analysis for the Consumer Electronics Market Research Group, NPD. He says the technological developments of the 21st century have brought about some historic advances in consumer electronics. He said 10 years ago might as well be 100 years. If you look back at the way people interacted with electronics in 2000 and the way they interact with them today, there is no comparison. 10 years ago, there were no flat panel televisions. There were no mobile web devices or smartphones. There were no e-book readers. And very few people had notebook computers. Bruce Bockenheimer is with the MIT Enterprise Forum in New York City. He is also the Director of Entrepreneurship at Pace University. He talked about what he believes are the most important technological developments of the 21st century. They are mobile computing, digital media content, broadband, social media platforms, and user-generated content. Also, digital photography and global positioning systems for consumers. Mr. Bockenheimer says all of these things have worked together to revolutionize technology. And he says the technology is constantly changing, faster than at any other time in history. He said telephones had not changed for 3 or 4 decades. They could be on a wall or on a tabletop. But now, cell phone technology is changing every year. He asked, how many people have a cell phone that is more than a year or 2 old? For VOA Special English, I'm Alex Villarreal. You can learn more about technology on our website, voaspecialenglish.com. And you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and iTunes at VOA Learning English.
You've joined a speaking group. Where? Is this online or is this in Vietnam?
Yeah, there is a culture house in Ho Chi Minh City, and there is a speaking club. Yeah, I join there every Sunday morning and evening.
Okay, and what sort of topics would you speak about in these speaking group sessions?
Yeah, anything. There's many kind of topic, and we talk about the job, life, many things. Yeah, and we talk many things what we want to tell.
Do you ever Skype with English speakers, let's say, in North America or Australia, Britain? Do you ever practice with native English speakers?
No, this is the first time I'm going to talk to you. Yeah.
Okay.
I know you're on Facebook. Yeah.
Yeah, good, good to talk to you. If I mean, that would be one suggestion I would have if you are able to talk to, let's say, a Facebook friend or someone who has a friend through Facebook, let's say, in the U.S. or Australia, Canada, who is willing to Skype, maybe someone in your profession or a student or someone who then you can have a conversation about something you're both interested in or something you're both familiar with. Then it's not just a made-up conversation about the weather, or something like that. But it's what a lot of people are doing now is using Skype to, just to do conversational practice.
Yes, I know. Yeah.
Do you feel comfortable? Will you feel comfortable doing this? Would you like to try to do that, to connect with other native English speakers elsewhere in the world via Skype?
Yeah, I'm a little bit nervous because my vocabulary is not good. It's not enough vocabulary to speak to other people. I have no vocabulary to explain my idea with them. But I will try. I'm trying.
I moved from Thailand since 2005. I am a Canadian citizen.
So,
and
it looks like you're at a mall. Where are you?
Yeah, at a mall. Yeah, at a mall.
Okay.
In Canada.
Yeah.
That's funny.
And next month, I will come back to English class, EAL, at now at school. At school, but for right now, I prepare my English for so that I will be very good English, and I will remember a lot of great words in my brain, and listening. That then I search listening from VOA. I listen VOA, and it helped me a lot. And after that, I found this website. It is really good. And for right now, I study. Today I study at lesson 15, and I will be done by 16 for today.
Advise them to go through literatures, go through magazines, and get themselves accustomed to those words, so that when you want to speak, it's going to be easy for you to just bring out word without thinking twice.
Yeah, my name is Namang, and I'm from Vietnam. I'm 17 years old, and I'm a high school student.
Okay, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
So our question today is, if you had just 1 hour a day to learn English, how would you spend it? How would you make the best use of that hour?
I will spend my time on listening English audio and learning vocabulary, and I write out to a notebook, and from I take words from Oxford Advanced Learner's Dictionary.
Okay.
So,
what sort of audio material would you listen to? What are something that interests you? Maybe something related to your hobbies, or something that you really need to do for school? What type of material would you listen to, and would it be something that you do at school, or you would do it sometimes at your own time?
I just do it sometimes as my hobby.
Okay.
So, yeah, when I have free time, and especially when I have time to learn English, so I listen to audio of VOA or BBC.
Do you listen to some songs online, or do you listen to something on TV, maybe on other media?
Yeah, I usually listen to Maroon 5's song. Maroon 5.
Oh, Maroon 5.
I usually listen to the song, and then I go on internet and find the lyrics.
If you had just 1 hour to learn English every day, how would you spend that hour? What do you think would be the best use of that hour to learn English? What would you do?
Well, I guess at the beginning I would read during 15 minutes. Then the rest I could watch a video, or I can find out a new word. I have visited a new website I discovered one of these days that is called it's Western Dictionary. I can find very nice words sometimes, and I learn a lot from there.
Okay, when you find a word in the dictionary, do you find the word first and then try to use it, or do you find it because you find it somewhere in the video or in some text online, and then you want to look it up?
I find it first. For example, I am reading and I find a word. I don't know what it exactly means. So I try to find out at the internet how use it, when, and that's all. And what does it mean?
In Iran, I go to English class 2 days in a week. Okay? Because now I have free time, for example, at night and afternoon, I have free time for learning English.
Great.
Okay? Yes, because I want to go to out of Iran for continuation, for master, because my major is in computer engineer.
All right.
Yes. Now I want to learn English for continuation because I need to learn English. because I want to get IELTS.
To take the IELTS test, yes, sure. Do you have a way to Skype with anyone to practice your English?
Yeah, I don't get you, but I think get. I want to learn English with Skype in Iran. Okay?
Yes.
It's true?
Yes. That's our question.
Do you have a way to connect with people through social media?
Yes. I have either ID Facebook and I have an ID Skype and Yahoo. Yes, I have.
Okay. So, have you made friends? Have you met people online via Skype or Facebook? Maybe we'll have Skypebook
Yeah,
one day.
That's right. I'll combine it both. You could talk right through the...
Right. Have you met people who you already were able to practice your English with?
In Skype?
Yes. Or Facebook?
Yes, I have a friend in Otarf, Iran, and I connected with them for learning English.
Welcome to Talk to Us with Jelka and Avi. Good to have you calling. So it's been 5 months since we last spoke to you. How have you been learning English? What have you been doing to improve your English?
I'm just working on my thesis and do not have any time to work on my general English because I'm doing my thesis and it takes much time. And after that, I'll do it again.
Okay, what is your thesis on?
My thesis is about English language teaching.
All right.
I'm comparing two groups. One is about computer-based material, English teaching by computer-based material.
Okay.
And the other, English teaching by printed-based material.
All right, so you're comparing these two methods of teaching. You're probably an ideal... sorry?
In a rural setting.
I see. So you are probably an ideal person to ask this question, right?
That's right. Actually, I'm curious, how do you compare print materials you're saying in a rural setting, how do you compare learning with print materials versus learning with online materials?
Would you please turn your camera off because the quality is going to be low and worse.
Okay, I just turned our camera off. So how do you think the two different methods of learning compare?
Now, I just compared these two and I gained a very different result according to the previous studies.
And so what's your conclusion? Is there one that's better than the other, or what's your summary?
The previous studies said that English teaching based on computer-based materials works better than printed-based. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
But as mine was done in a rural setting, as the facilities was not good enough in a rural setting for the students,
sure.
and all the students were engaged with just other computer applications, and they do not paid more attention about language teaching and learning.
Mm-hmm.
And my result was inconsistent with the other studies.
From VOA Learning English, this is the Technology Report. Internet activists and human rights groups are criticizing an order that requires blogs and social media sites in Vietnam to share personal information only. The order aims to ban social media users and bloggers from posting other information such as news stories. Local media reports say the decree states that such sites are not permitted to, quote, gather or summarize information from press organizations or government websites. Prime Minister Nguyen Thanh Dong approved Decree 72 in July. Internet activists say this is an attempt by the communist government to restrict freedom of speech. Rights groups say the decree's requirements are too broad and will be used to act against government critics. Others criticized a statement by Lê Nam Tang, the Deputy Minister of Information and Communications. State media reported him as saying that the law aims to help web users find correct and clean information on the internet. But one blogger says that is a matter of personal choice. She says people should be able to decide for themselves whether information is good or bad. And she says Vietnamese citizens do not need the government to teach them how to think. The decree sets out very broad categories of speech that officials could consider as troublesome. It includes warnings about information that is against Vietnam or undermines certain principles. Sean Crispin is the Southeast Asia representative for the Committee to Protect Journalists, or CPJ. He says the increased restrictions suggest that the government thinks it has lost control of the criticism that is so widespread on social media. For VOA Learning English, I'm Alex Villarreal.
From VOA Learning English, this is the Economics Report in Special English. Many children first learn the value of money by receiving an allowance. The purpose of an allowance is to teach children about money. Children can learn how to manage money, especially at an early age, when financial mistakes are not very costly. The amount of money that parents give to their children to spend as they wish differs from family to family. Timing is another consideration. Some children get a weekly allowance, others get a monthly allowance. Parents should make clear what, if anything, the child is expected to pay for with the money. At first, young children may spend all of their allowance soon after they receive it. If they do this, they will learn the hard way that spending must be done within a budget. Parents are usually advised not to offer more money until the next allowance. The object is to show young people that a budget demands choices between spending and saving. Older children may be responsible enough to save money for larger costs like clothing or electronics. Many people who have written on the subject of allowances say it is not a good idea to pay your child for work around the home. These jobs are a normal part of family life. Paying children to do extra work around the house, however, can be useful. It can even provide an understanding of how a business works. Allowances give children a chance to experience the things they can do with money. They can share it in the form of gifts or giving to a good cause. They can spend it by buying things that they want, or they can save and maybe even invest it. Saving helps children understand that costly goals require sacrifice. You have to cut costs and plan for the future. For VOA Learning English, I'm Laurel Bowman.
From VOA Learning English, this is the Health Report. The World Health Organization says there has been an increase in the number of children in developing countries who weigh too much. In African countries, the WHO says the number of overweight or obese children is 2 times as high as it was 20 years ago. Around the world, about 43 million children under the age of 5 were overweight in 2011. Doctors use height, weight, and age to measure whether a person is underweight, normal, overweight, or obese. Overweight and obese children are more likely to become overweight and obese adults. They are also at risk of developing health problems like diabetes and heart disease. Francesco Branca is the director of the WHO Department of Nutrition for Health and Development. He says governments should consider providing vitamins for children, and they should have policies on how food is marketed to children. But reducing the number of overweight children will not be easy. The goal is difficult to meet, even in wealthy countries. Experts say lowering obesity rates is especially complex in countries that also have high rates of infectious diseases. But the WHO has some basic solutions. The organization says people should eat less fat, sugar, salt, and processed food. This can be replaced with more fruits and vegetables and increased physical activity. These goals are especially important for children. The WHO also says mothers should breastfeed their babies for at least the first 6 months if possible. The current goal for the WHO's World Health Assembly is to prevent any increase in the percentage of overweight children in the next 12 years. For VOA Learning English, I'm Alex Villarreal.
This is the VOA Special English Agriculture Report. George Ballas of Houston, Texas, lived a long life. He was a businessman and property developer, a university lecturer and author, a dancer and dance studio owner whose son Corky and grandson Mark followed in his footsteps into the dance world. And Mr. Ballas was the inventor of the weed eater. The man who found an easier way for people to cut grass and weeds died in Houston on June 25th. He was 85 years old. George Ballas was born in Louisiana. He joined the military at 17. He served in World War II and the Korean War. After the military, he became a dance teacher and executive in the dance school industry. In the 1950s, he built a dance studio of his own in Houston. People called it the biggest in the world. Dance City, USA had 120 teachers. Mr. Ballas sold the studio in 1964. By the early 70s, he was on to the next big thing. The idea had come to him at a car wash. He watched the needle-like bristles of the brushes as they went round and round against his car. Could a similar idea be used to cut grass in places out of reach of someone pushing a lawnmower? To find out, he placed lengths of fishing line through holes in a tin can. He attached the can to the spinning part of a motorized grass edger. The result? A revolution for millions of people who cut grass for a living or just to keep their neighbors happy. George Ballas became known as the Weed King. And he once told the Houston Chronicle, "A weed eater comes along once in a lifetime." His invention grew into a company which he later sold. Today, his idea lives on in a new generation of string trimmers and edgers that people often call weed whackers. The noise may not be the nicest, but neither is a loud mower. Trimmers work well in corners and along walls and fences. They also avoid the use of chemicals and the labor of pulling weeds by hand. Of course, in the wrong hands, a weed whacker can do damage like any other power tool. The high-speed cutting line can whack pieces out of trees, wood fences, stone surfaces, or bird baths. In 1952, George Ballas married Maria Luisa Miralanda, a flamenco dancer and film actress. They were together for 59 years until his death. For VOA Special English, I'm Carolyn Presutti. You can find Voice of America's daily news and information service for people learning English at voaspecialenglish.com.